Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we on Russia's side? I'm totally confused. Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we on Russia's side? I'm totally confused. Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we on Russia's side? I'm totally confused. Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we on Russia's side? I'm totally confused.
Those comments are extraordinarily disgraceful, and they were frankly disgraceful at the time because any person who was in elected office or close to elected office had a very clear understanding of Vladimir Putin's aggressive means by which he wanted to take and maintain power within his own country, his United States' election. I mean, issue after issue after issue, we have known that this is who Vladimir Putin is, and it should not have taken the murder of mothers and babies in a maternity ward or the shelling of a theater where civilians were taking cover for anyone to understand how dangerous this man is.
Given your strong mastery of the foreign policy issues as well as serving in the Congress, do you see a shift here, and what do you account it for?
Well, I think what we're seeing here is that for years there was an effort to not only appease Putin, but appease Trump. And certainly time and time again, former President Trump excused Vladimir Putin's behavior. He defended him. I think the Helsinki press conference was an unforgettable, particularly those of us with the national security background, an unforgettable vision to see the president of the United States take the side of the leader of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, over his own intelligence services. That was an extraordinary day. And then fast forward, when there were reports and intel reporting that Vladimir Putin was putting bounties on the heads of U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan payable to the Taliban, and we saw defense after defense after defense. I mean, time and time again, the former president defended Putin. He's continued to do so. And so, unfortunately, when he was the president, far too many people fell in line with his defense of Vladimir Putin, and it's inexcusable. I am grateful that now people are finally starting to speak up, to recognize that this man is a danger, that he is a war criminal, that he has killed civilians. But frankly, he's done exactly what he said he would do. And so it is good that more people are standing up and recognizing that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal, that we have to put the most crushing of sanctions against Russia that we can, that we cannot treat Russia like a normal country because it is not functioning like a normal country, that we have to continue to provide incredible quantities of aid to the Ukrainians as they've been fighting for their freedom. But let's remember that it was also the former president who tried to withhold military aid. The threat of Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine is nothing new. It is why for years we have provided them with military aid so that they would be able to have the posture to demonstrate their own strength and to keep Russia defensively from invading and to be able to react if need be. And we think back to just a couple years ago when the president attempted to leverage that aid on a call with President Zelensky for a political favor. This is the reason that former President Trump was impeached the first time. Right. And I think at the time there was such of a discussion of, well, what does this military aid mean? Now we know, right? Now it's clear to every person why this military aid was and continues to be so important.
Well, that goes, and Congresswoman, you make several important points, including your emphasis on the reality of the foreign policy stakes. And while people are busy living their lives, and we know America's been through a lot lately, the type of misinformation or outright lying about what you just referred to was swallowed by people. They heard that maybe it wasn't such a big deal. Maybe Putin's not so bad. Who cares about Ukraine, quote unquote? And at that moment in time, it was more believable. So some of those voices I showed might have known better, but lied to a lot of Americans about that who accepted that. My final question to you is about political realignment. We hear about that in so many contexts. If you look in the modern era, of course, foreign policy has been a big part of domestic politics. We had a Cold War we all know about, and we had the post-Cold War period. We had the 9/11 period. Then we had the Democratic Party's evolution from a basically pro-Iraq war to anti, which is what Obama rode in through. We had all of the domestic partisan debates over Russia, even if maybe they shouldn't have been partisan, in the Trump era, some of which you just walked us through and which looks even worse today. Now we have this new fissure. Do you see this as a long-term realignment for the Republican Party? Do you see that being something that's constructive? Or do you think this is just under the heat of the current war, and in a year we might hear more about how, as Rudy Giuliani was saying, Putin was just so much more decisive than American presidents?
I'll defer to my Republican colleagues to kind of create the path forward for themselves and for their party. But I think that now is the time for choosing. We are seeing an assault on a democratic state in Europe by an oppressive authoritarian regime that is trying not just to invade Ukraine, but to defeat the democratic ideals that the Ukrainians are fighting for and dying for. And we, as the oldest democracy in the world, and a beacon of hope that other nations have long aspired to emulate, have a responsibility to not just defend democracies like Ukraine, to not just provide them what they need, including, thousands and thousands and thousands of different javelins and stingers and ammunition and grenade launchers, et cetera, but to defend the ideals that Ukrainians are dying for. And so I hope that they'll choose correctly and invest in not only supporting our Ukrainian allies, but supporting our own democracy at home.
Yeah.
One of the problems that Mehmet Oz is facing in his Pennsylvania Senate candidacy is that he's running as a Republican, and yet he's been pro-choice, as far as I can remember, for a really long time. Maybe that's changed. He previously supported Obamacare. He previously supported health insurance mandates before turning against them. And so there were some MAGA people who were not super big on Mehmet Oz. And now Trump has endorsed Mehmet Oz, and it's all going completely and totally bonkers. MAGA world melting down over Trump endorsing Mehmet Oz.
By the way, I endorsed another person today, Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. Dr. Oz.
Pensa.
Great guy, good man, Harvard educated, tremendous career, and they liked him for a long time. That's like a poll. When you're in television for 18 years, that's like a poll. That means people like you, but he's a great guy.
What's crazy? The reasons that they dislike Mehmet Oz are pretty reasonable things, like he has a history of being pro-choice. He has a history of supporting Obamacare. That is making them lose their minds over Trump's endorsement of Oz. The things that should disqualify him immediately, like the fact that he promoted quack cures for colds, drinkable silver, it's indistinguishable from Alex Jones. They don't seem to have any problem with that, but MAGA world is melting down. Sean Parnell, the former Trump-endorsed candidate who had to drop out of the race after an allegation surfaced from his ex-wife, wrote on Twitter, "I have enormous respect for President Trump. I was honored to have his endorsement in Pennsylvania twice, but I'm disappointed by this. Oz is the antithesis of everything that made Trump the best president of my lifetime. He's the farthest thing from America first, and he'd be very bad for Pennsylvania." Right-wing radio host Eric Erickson tweeted, "It's like Donald Trump's staff is sabotaging Trump by convincing him to make the worst possible endorsements." Breitbart News' Joel Pollack wrote, "This endorsement could divide MAGA in the only way that matters. He could lose America First conservatives over it." And then Republican Mo Brooks from Alabama, who's running for Senate, he recently had a rift with Trump. Trump unendorsed him. He wrote, "This is happening because Trump surrounded himself by staff who are on McConnell's payroll and hostile to the MAGA agenda. Everybody telling Trump who to endorse in primaries works for the swamp. They played him again." Roger Stone was on Telegram writing, "Wait, President Trump endorsed this guy?" Town hall columnist Kurt Schlichter wrote, "It's pretty hard for me to fully express how disappointed I am in Trump for endorsing Oz." From Blaze TV, Allie Beth Stuckey wrote, "Wait, is there anything conservative about Dr. Oz?" So they don't love Trump. They love what they imagine Trump to be.
But when I didn't win the election, but when I didn't win the election, but when I didn't win the election, but when I didn't win the election.
And when Trump shows what he is, which is he puts his finger to the wind, he supports people he thinks will win, he supports celebrities, he loves celebrities. That's what, listen, what's the similarity between Herschel Walker and Mehmet Oz? There's not much, other than they're both well known in celebrity space, sports, TV, etc. Trump gets his information from TV. We should be glad he didn't try nominating Judge Judy to the Supreme Court, because that's how Trump makes decisions. The real question is, should Oprah be held accountable for unleashing Mehmet Oz upon the world? I'm half joking, but it's horrible. The guy's horrible. Herschel Walker's horrible. Mehmet Oz is horrible. But if there's anything good from this, it would be hopefully the division within MAGA world over Trump's endorsement of Mehmet Oz.